Tonight, millions of TikTok users scramble and migrate.
Okay, I am here. I have found the note. I found the red note, and it is.
After the Supreme Court's final verdict on the fate of the popular Chinese-owned app. Plus, moving closer to a Mideast ceasefire, where things stand tonight ahead of Sunday's start date. And for fire victims in the middle of despair.
People's lives have been gone, their childhood, their memories.
Bright spots as churches and ministries team up to provide hope and aid. And while inflation ticked up last month, do experts see any signs of hope in the latest numbers? All this and more tonight on Faith Nation. The Supreme Court upholds a law banning TikTok in the United States. Good evening in Washington, I'm Jenna Browder. TikTok's days could be numbered. The popular social media app is set to go dark in just 2 days, unless its Chinese owner divests from the company. The Supreme Court upheld a federal ban on the app. The unanimous ruling affects more than 170 million Americans who use TikTok. A bipartisan law passed last year cites the platform as a national security threat. Companies like Apple and Google could face fines if they continue offering download software updates and data storage for TikTok. Now, alternative Chinese apps like Red Note are exploding in popularity, raising new alarms for intelligence experts. The Biden administration says it will be up to President-elect Trump to enforce the law. Trump's team is reportedly discussing options to try and save the app. Chris Lewis joins us now. He is president and CEO at Public Knowledge. Chris, welcome. So you are more on the side of TikTok here and the issue of free speech. What's your reaction to the Supreme Court's ruling?
Yeah, Jenna, well, first, I think we're on the side of the users. As you said, there's millions of users who will miss out on this great opportunity to have competition in the marketplace, competition to Meta and Twitter and all the other social media platforms where they've enjoyed expressing themselves for years. And so that's a real loss for free expression. But there are real concerns that have been raised by the government about TikTok. And it looks like the court decided those were more important than protecting these free speech opportunities.
Yeah, the case really pitting free speech against national security. Practically speaking, Chris, what does this ruling mean for TikTok users? Will their accounts actually go dark on Sunday, or could this all be resolved with something as simple as an executive order once President Trump's in office?
Well, certainly the president under the law, when it goes into effect on Sunday, has the ability to pause the ban on TikTok or any other designated company in the future for 60 to 90 days. And there's been talk out of Mar-a-Lago that is something that President Trump may choose to do to try to find a divestment or purchase solution for TikTok. So it could be up in the air day to day for the users and creators on TikTok. But if the ban goes into effect, you will see app stores and other back-end service providers that support TikTok stop working with the platform. And that means it could go dark for many people unless they find alternatives.
Yeah, we'll have to see what President-elect Trump does. He's kind of teased the executive order. We're not sure. We'll have to wait and see on that. Does this case, Chris, create a slippery slope for other foreign-owned companies operating in the United States? And what about these other Chinese-owned platforms like Red Note that are kind of, threatening to replace TikTok?
Yeah, it certainly puts those companies into the spotlight. Many folks had never heard of Red Note until the last few weeks when they started to look for alternatives to TikTok. And of course, there are other social media platforms that are not owned by Chinese, by China or by other designated foreign adversaries that would create problems under this law. So, it's a shame that we're going to see less competition in the marketplace. It's a shame that this law only targets the threat of data being collected by TikTok, because much of this data that is a concern that is being collected on users is being collected by companies that are based right here in the United States and traded by data brokers. So broader privacy protections are needed to protect the American public. from these sorts of threats, not just this TikTok ban.
Is that really what it comes down to? Is Congress actually passing laws to create boundaries for companies about what's allowed, what's not allowed? Is that really the permanent solution here?
We think it is. There were bipartisan bills in the last Congress that were proposed. We were fans of the ADPPA, the American Data Privacy Protection Act, that had great support in the House by Democrats and Republicans. We'd love to see those bipartisan solutions come forward with comprehensive privacy protections so that you're protected no matter what platform you choose to use.
Yeah. All right, Chris Lewis with Public Knowledge. Always great to see you, Chris. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Well, Inauguration Day is Monday, and preparations are underway as Washington gets ready for the second swearing-in of President-elect Trump. And that includes moving the ceremony indoors because of expected freezing weather. Senior White House correspondent Kelly Wright is at the White House tonight. Kelly, what can you tell us about this big change?
Well, Jenna, good evening to you. I can tell you the big change came as a result of the decision made by President-elect Donald Trump. He realized that a polar vortex was coming into the area, and he stated on Truth Social, as well as the Truth Vance transition team, that he was quite concerned not only for the men and women who would be here in uniformed officers, police first responders, K-9 units, as well as the horses, but the throngs of people who was expected to come here and are expected to be here. He didn't want to see them getting hurt by any of the polar vortex conditions, bone-chilling temperatures, frigid temperatures that would cause a lot of people harm. And so the best thing that he did was to make this decision, move things indoors. However, he did say for those who will come out, stay warm, dress warmly, and that he would also have a watch party for the inauguration that would take place at Capital One Arena here in Washington, D.C.
Do we know what kind of tone Trump will set in this inaugural speech, and will it resemble what we saw in 2017, Kelly?
The tone will be vastly different from that, Jenna. That was one of American carnage. This tone will be one of unity, bringing all people together. The president stated publicly that he would like to see all Americans come together and to help Americans understand that he is a president for all the American people. A lot of that, of course, was echoed in the election that he won, resoundingly, making a political comeback unseen by any other in the history of America.
So we know there will, of course, be many dignitaries there, like there always are. Kelly, who are some of the people invited this time?
Well, he's invited Xi of China, who has said that he would not be there, will likely send an envoy. I'm sure the envoy will be among the dignitaries invited inside the rotunda now. He also invited the President Orban of Hungary, as well as the President of Italy, and other people who will be coming in as well, and who have Carrie Underwood doing the national anthem.
Yeah, that's gotten a lot of attention in recent days. So I understand President Trump will be getting to work on day one. What's on the agenda, Kelly?
A flurry of executive orders, most of them dealing with a far-ranging sweep of actions that he wants to take, most notably what's happening in immigration in terms of the border security. He will also deal with oil and gas production because his motto there is drill, baby, drill. He wants to see energy dominance here for America, so that will be taking place as well.
Yeah, I think that that motto, too, he's hoping will help kind of bring down some prices and help with inflation as well. Earlier in his presidential campaign, Trump stated that he would bring retribution to a new presidency, but it seems like that's changed. Kelly, what's your sense?
It has definitely changed, and let's take you back to Butler, Pennsylvania, during the summer of 2024 when he was campaigning and was hit by an assassin's bullet in his ear. And he survived that. But remember, he said, fight, fight, fight. But in the months after that, he began to really soften his tone in terms of what he wanted for America. He wanted America to be great again, but he also wanted America to be one where it would have unity. So his message will be one of unity, bringing all Americans together. In fact, there's an inaugural prayer breakfast that will be taking place called One America, One Light. In that context, he will be talking about light. Light showing hope, hope and optimism coming from the president-elect when he swears in as the 47th President of the United States.
All right, Kelly Wright at the White House for us tonight. Kelly, thank you. Well, on Capitol Hill, confirmation hearings continue for President-elect Trump's cabinet picks. South Dakota Governor Kristi Noem answered questions before a Senate committee today about her nomination to be Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security. It was her first chance to lay out her vision for the department central to Trump's plans to crack down on illegal immigration.
Border security must remain a top priority. As a nation, we have the right and the responsibility to secure our borders against those who would do us harm. And we must create a fair and a lawful immigration system that is efficient and is effective and that reflects our values.
And Noem is expected to be confirmed. She will take over for outgoing Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas. As he wraps up his final days in office, President Biden issued a statement agreeing that after Virginia ratified the Equal Rights Amendment back in 2020, it has become part of the Constitution. He stopped short, though, of ordering the National Archivist to certify the amendment. So while the statement shows his support, it doesn't actually change anything in the Constitution. Also today, President Biden issued pardons for nearly 2,500 nonviolent drug offenders. That means he has now issued more individual pardons and commutations than any president in history. Biden says it's a step towards righting historic wrongs and sentencing disparities. Turning overseas, Israel is preparing to welcome the first of 98 remaining hostages that are still being held captive in the Gaza Strip. Today, Israel's security cabinet approved a ceasefire and hostage deal with Hamas, the best chance yet to end 15 months of deadly fighting. The deal begins with a 6-week truce, during which Israeli troops will withdraw from population centers in Gaza, allowing displaced Palestinians to return to their homes. During those 6 weeks, Hamas has agreed to free 33 hostages, mostly women and the elderly. However, it's unclear how many are still alive. In exchange, Israel will release hundreds of Palestinian prisoners, some of which have been convicted of killing Israelis. The deal has sparked both hope and concern.
It's a day of hope compared to previous days, but still we don't know what conditions people will come back, dead, alive, and if alive, what will be their mental and physical condition. So it's a complicated feeling.
We couldn't believe that attempts to achieve a truce are finally successful. We want to see our family across the Gaza Strip.
The first hostages could come home as soon as Sunday. This would be the first ceasefire since November of 2023, when 105 hostages were freed in a temporary truce. Up next, the war against the deadly wildfires in California. How Operation Blessing is helping families who have lost everything. Next on Faith Nation. Welcome back. Fire crews in Southern California are taking advantage of favorable weather conditions tonight to make progress on those massive wildfires. The high winds have let off, but officials are worried they could return next week.
We're getting a little bit of breathing room right now because it's not so windy. The red flag warning is gone away, but it's still warm. It's still dry, and there might be winds next week. So we're not going to let our guard down. We're still out there mopping up, trying to put this fire to bed before any more red flags are predicted.
At least 18 people are missing in the fire zone. 2 more are confirmed dead, bringing the total number of fatalities to 27. The fires have damaged or destroyed more than 12,000 homes and buildings, including 10 schools. Officials are allowing homeowners to return to some areas to begin assessing the damage and cleanup. They're also calling on homeowners to create a 5-foot zone around their homes, clear of vegetation. CBN's Operation Blessing is working with churches and ministries in Los Angeles to serve fire victims. Earlier this week, they partnered with Cathedral Church to provide hot meals, water, clothing, and hygiene kits.
Operation Blessing is in California right now, on the ground, doing a distribution for 1,000 families today. 1,000 families that were affected by the fires, families that lost everything, families that lost a little bit, but everyone is in need.
Obviously, things have been affected, but also people's lives have been gone, their childhood, their memories, their livelihood, for most of us.
Es algo que nos preocupa mucho porque tanto nos ha afectado como a todas las personas que han perdido sus propiedades familiares, pero sinceramente Dios está con nosotros y nos va a ayudar a salir adelante de todo esto.
La realidad la estamos pasando muy difícil, muchos de aquí de Los Ángeles, y pues nada, confiando en Dios, que es lo importante.
The local church in California has been the key for us to react and act, activating the ministry, activating the church to be the hands and feet of Jesus, of mercy, bringing aid to the families that are so in need.
We realized we were still pretty safe, so we were looking for ways to help. My wife knew of Cathedral Church and then realized they were partners with Operation Blessings, who I used to work with, so we were like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. We're doing a donations drive, so people are coming through, they're receiving hot meals, they fill a sheet of different needs they might need, clothing, diapers, water, whatever, any way we can help them.
We are committed to be here to support the families, to support the ministries that are firsthand helping the families, helping people, thanks to you.
This is such a blessing for us, and I know it'll be a blessing for our neighbors. I appreciate you guys for your support.
It's been incredible just to be able to witness that, people's hearts and coming together.
Muy lindo de su parte de ustedes que nos estén ayudando con comida, que nos estén ayudando a todos los angelinos con víveres, con pañales, con todo lo que necesita la gente. Me siento muy contento y que Dios los bendiga de gran manera, de verdad, de corazón.
And Operation Blessing will continue providing critical aid to those affected by the devastating wildfires in Los Angeles. To find out how you can help, please visit ob.org. Coming up, inflation isn't going away just yet. What it means for your wallet when Faith Nation returns. Welcome back. Inflation is heating up again and hitting your wallet. In December, prices jumped 2.9% from last year, driven mostly by higher gas costs. That's a bigger increase than we saw in October and November. While it's much lower than the four-decade high of 9.1% in 2022, it's a sign that inflation isn't cooling as fast as economists had hoped. With President-elect Trump taking office soon, many are wondering what may come next. Mark Hamrick joins us now. He is Washington Bureau Chief and Senior Economic Analyst for Bankrate.com. Mark, good to see you. Welcome. So it seems like inflation is proving to be more difficult than a lot of experts had expected. What's the thinking on that?
Inflation has been stickier than had been hoped. Jenna, it's absolutely right. And that is among the reasons why we're less than 2 weeks out from a Federal Reserve meeting where the Fed is not expected to continue to reduce interest rates. As you mentioned in this latest snapshot, among the offenders, so to speak, were energy prices, gasoline prices in particular. They have rebounded somewhat of late, and the effect of rising gasoline prices tends to filter on through much of the rest of the economy because we're so reliant on transportation. So, we're still in the situation where Americans are very much feeling the pinch of affordability challenges, and consumer sentiment is still depressed compared to pre-pandemic levels.
You mentioned interest rate cuts this year. How many do you think we could see, if any, at all?
Right now, I don't think it's really very prudent to make predictions about interest rate cuts because there is so much uncertainty in front of us with respect to what the new administration plans to do, how the global economy will react to that, how the U.S. economy reacts. But in terms of what sort of the baseline assumptions right now are, rather than the 4 interest rate cuts that had been sort of the expectation last fall, I think probably the best you're going to do right now in terms of an expectation is 2. Meaning 2 quarter-point cuts. But again, I'm not counseling, for example, my mother-in-law to make a big bet on that because I do think there's just so much that's uncertain. I would say right now, Americans just need to act on what they know to be the case right now and to remain extremely flexible because of the high degree of uncertainty in our world, and that's not any different now than it was a month ago.
Yeah, you were kind of getting at this, but statistics, the overall economy looks to be doing well, but people are not feeling it because of inflation. How low does inflation have to go, Mark, before people really start to feel a little more comfortable?
It needs to go lower, obviously. And, the Federal Reserve does have a target of 2% annual increases of inflation, but that needs to be coinciding with a still robust job market. We got the unemployment rate down to 4.1% recently, and wage growth more broadly for Americans that helps to recapture some of that buying power. So if we think about it, let's say from a budget standpoint, it's not just the money we're spending, it's the money that we take in, and we need for those to be in better alignment so we can have appropriate buying power so Americans can save more. Americans are saving less now than they had recently, and that is not a good situation.
People, hoping, a lot of folks hoping inflation will ease up in 2025 and prices will actually start to come down. Mark, is that wishful thinking?
I think aspirations are great, and I think that is sort of the expectation that our central bankers have. The other part is that's their job, to keep interest rates at a level where they can do what they can to bring that down. But in this global economy in which we're interconnected, with the administration prepared to take some steps that many economists believe could be inflationary, I think we just have to be cautious about making ambitious assumptions and to plan, much the same as we want to put money in the bank to save for that rainy day. I think we should always be doing that, and it's a good time to be doing that now as well.
Okay. Mark Hamrick with Bankrate. It's always great to see you, Mark. Thanks for coming on tonight. Have a great weekend.
Thank you.
And still ahead, a heartwarming adoption surprise.
Download the CBN News app. One place for all of your news. Breaking news alerts. Watch CBN News Channel live. CBN News, because truth matters. Get the CBN News app today.
Finally tonight, a couple from California adopted two huskies almost 3 years apart. But they recently realized the two had more in common than they thought. When Amanda and Daniel brought Zoe home, they decided to give her some space to adjust, keeping her separate from their other dog, Jazz. Once the two met, they immediately became inseparable. It seemed like they knew each other, and it turns out they sort of did. Amanda and Daniel did a DNA test on both dogs and found out they are sisters.
They're constantly playing or constantly sleeping next to each other.
And Daniel says it seemed like a perfect match, Jazz bringing her sister out of her shell a little bit and making her comfortable in her new home. That's going to do it for Faith Nation. Don't forget our special coverage of the inauguration on Monday. Have a great night.